broadcasting from the Unshackled Studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by theunshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wills.
Hello everyone and welcome to this week's WilmsFront interview show. The date is Thursday, the 4th of November 2021. As always, we are live on the WilmsFront YouTube and DLive channels, as well as on the interactive entropy software. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where after the great storm on Friday morning, we've had a glorious cup long weekend weather-wise, and despite the state being open, people getting together, modest crowds at the races and a number of peaceful protests, none have turned into these so-called super spreader events, with daily cases of COVID continuing to decline. So even though Victoria is open, there are still many restrictions. The QR code infrastructure, the indoor masks, and the lockout of the unvaccinated is well and truly underway. And we also had Dan Andrews' new permanent pandemic laws, which the bill is called the Public Health and Wellbeing Pandemic Management Amendment. That was rushed through the lower house of the Victorian Parliament last week. It is likely to pass the upper house in the coming weeks with the support of the three crossbenchers who the Andrews government negotiated with in secret over the last 6 months. Fiona Patten of the Reason Party, Samantha Ratnam of the Greens, and Andy Meddick of the Animal Justice Party. This bill would give the Premier the power to declare a pandemic and the Health Minister the power to decree public health orders with very little parliamentary oversight. There were two peaceful protests over the Cup weekend against this bill, as well as the vaccine mandates and passports. The first was on Saturday afternoon outside Parliament House. The second was outside the Flemington Racecourse on Tuesday on Cup Day. They were peaceful because police refreshingly facilitated free speech and assembly. There were many speakers at both of these peaceful protests. One whose speech went viral was Jerkuei Anyuon, a South Sudanese migrant to Australia, who is one of many recent migrants over the past 18 months who've been more vocal about the lockdown tyranny we've been subjected to than those Australians whose families have been here for centuries. Perhaps because of the lands that they've come from, they are better at spotting the signs of tyranny. Jerry is passionate about helping African Australians to take the many opportunities that Australia has to offer and mentor them to become responsible citizens. So he's founded the African Australian Family and Youth Foundations. It is a very worthwhile initiative given the integration problems that have accompanied African immigration to Australia. Jerry, welcome to WilmsFront.
Thank you, Tim. Good. Thank you for having me.
And now your speech outside Parliament House, it's got, at my last count, over 50,000 views, and a lot of people are taking note of you now. But first noticed you. You were a very active and regular at the when Melbourne was open back earlier in the year at the RDA pub meets that Monica and Morgan held before we were put back into these lockdowns. And your optimism and smile that despite what's happening, that Australia is still a wonderful place full of opportunity. It certainly resonated with me, and you stuck in my mind ever since then.
Yeah, thank you very much. It would be understatement if I say, for a South Sudanese community member or somebody from my community living in Australia, to say that we are the lucky people. We are living in the best country more than any other South Sudanese somewhere now alive. And when I saw the tendency from the political class when they use this COVID to try to crash down on civil liberties that even made Australia the strongest country to be able to reach out and give people like me a chance. I had no choice. I had to go out and join. And I thanks Monica Smith for the bus. If you could remember the bus, the bus was the one that actually took so many out. I failed to get the bus yet. I came the last day when the bus is gone. But the bus that the Monica Smith was driving around woke so many people up. For me, the last thing that made me get out of my room and join the protest was when the police arrested a pregnant woman who just only put a Facebook post outside.
Zoe Buhler.
Yep, Zoe Buhler. That was the beginning. That was the beginning of me getting out. I couldn't hold anymore because there were no more moral standards. And then Daniel Andrew couldn't even apologize. The Victoria Police couldn't even apologize. She wasn't posting any threat to anybody. She was not posting any threat to them. So that was the beginning of my activism. That's how I got out. I said, now, if things like these are allowed to go and nobody speak up, then so many things will go more. And what example can we have apart from Daniel Andrew lying there all the time? If you give him the powers that are in that bill, and we've seen him what he's doing, we never know what he will do next. If he can arrest a pregnant woman using the police literally, then what next can he do with the powers that he's asking for now? So that was the reason that I joined, and I think I don't know what I've done. I just felt that I need to do my little bit in this country because this country has given me more, and it was my responsibility to do what I can when the injustices are being met on us by the government.
When did you emigrate to Australia?
I came to Australia in 2015.
You settled here in Victoria?
No, I started in Brisbane. My ex-wife brought me here. So I came in 2015 from South Sudan to Brisbane. And then after our breakup, I had to go and look for opportunity somewhere to work. Not her fault aside, but in a relationship, you always have two sides. I have my own share in the failure. She has her own share in the failure. So the fact that we broke up, it wasn't like a peaceful one, like where people can understand each other and all this. So I had to leave to look for a job somewhere else where I will be having a peace of mind and do other things. So I moved to Victoria because there was a lot of work in Victoria.
Now, a lot of people are aware that there was a civil war in Sudan, and now that, there's two countries, there's Sudan and South Sudan. Can you summarize the complexity of that civil war to our audience and what it was about?
What happened in Sudan before the British left, that is 1956. That's when Sudan became an independent country. Before 1956, British administered Sudan. South Sudan was administered differently, and the North was administered different because the northern part is mostly Muslim. They were allowed to practice their own Islamic and everything. The South Sudan was more under missionaries, Christian based. So literally, the British actually created two countries. It should have been automatically two countries. But when they left, they declared Sudan independent country and hand the leadership to the Muslim in the north. So the Muslim got that as a chance to fight the South Sudanese and try to turn all the missionary school, all the English school, everything into Islamization. They wanted to make sure that the Southern Sudanese people become Muslim. That did not go well with the South Sudanese people. So they took up arms immediately before the British left. And that was the first civil war. That went on from 55 until 1972, when the Northern Sudan accepted to give South Sudan a self-autonomous government. After 1970, from 72 to 83, when the Islamists came back to power in the north, they abrogated on the autonomous government of South Sudan. That created a second civil war. And that second civil war from 83 until 2005 is the one that resulted to many South Sudanese coming to Australia as refugees. And the man that we need to thank was that this guy called Billy Graham. Billy Graham is a missionary in America. And he publicized the persecution of the South Sudanese people because they were Christian. And as a result, that we were Christian countries like America, Canada, Australia, under John Howard, by the way, it was under John Howard that most of us came in here, try to give South Sudanese a chance. And that's how we end up here. And the civil war ended in 2005 through a peace deal between the North and the South. And that peace deal is the one that actually created a referendum. And we did a referendum in 2011, and South Sudan became an independent country. And now we've got South Sudan and the Sudan.
So basically, these civil wars were caused by two groups of people who couldn't live together because they have different values, basically being in the one country. And so since they've both gone their separate ways, Sudan, North Sudan, and South Sudan, people are living in, have control over the people in the respective nations. There's not this tussle over who's going to impose their values on government. Both groups have got their own country now and can live how they want.
Exactly, but the unfortunate situation is after the two countries broke apart, they are not able to sustain themselves, which is the topic for another day. The South Sudan, after becoming an independent country, were unable to move on their own. They actually started their own civil war again, which will be a topic for another day, like I said. The Northern Sudan, on the other side, is always not, because they never wanted the South Sudanese to leave, they will always be interfering. And they are interfering all the time. And after now, we still have a lot of refugees in Kenya, the neighboring countries. We've got a lot of refugees in Uganda. And we've got even refugees back in the Sudan that we ran away from. So it is a complete thing. It's all confusion. So, but it will be a topic for another, like I said. But the main important thing is that the South Sudanese people feel now they have got their own country. Despite all the challenges that are available now, they are proud that they've got their own country. And when the right leadership come up, they can run it better. And that brings me to my point. When I talk about the young people here, I tell them, you're gonna have to learn all the skill you need in this country, because you got a potentially a country that is still fresh. There's less. The only thing we have as a tarmac road may not be more than 100 kilometers. There is no drainage system. There's nothing. Some part of South Sudan might have never been stepped on since creation. So, and if they get the skill and the opportunities that are here, they can go and develop that country. Instead of engaging in a victimhood, why not learn how to operate a crane? Why not learn how to run a drainage system? Why not learn how to make roads? Get the tangible skill that you can take back and develop the country, because people like us will not be there for long. And the only gift we can give them is to direct them in a better ways instead of telling them to feel victim all the time. And I said in one of my tweets, if Australia was inhabited by one of the South Sudanese tribe, or maybe Somali tribe, or maybe Ethiopian tribe, they would have not actually given other tribe a chance to come over. And since we can actually discriminate ourselves that much, then why again come and make a big deal out of here? After all, the racism in this country has got laws that if somebody is racist at you and you actually have them evident and everything, they will be prosecuted. They will even lose their job. So the young people, my focus with young people is, I have not enough time on this well to learn the skill that I needed to go and develop South Sudan. But if I can direct them to the right skill, they can be able to go back and develop that country. Or otherwise, the Northern Sudan will come and take it from us again.
Well, you certainly grasp the opportunities that Australia has to offer migrants, and Australian governments have, and the population hasn't always agreed, but Australian governments have been very generous with the various migration programs. You mentioned that it was John Howard, when he was Prime Minister, who first started to accept South Sudanese refugees. In the tail end of the Howard government, the then Immigration Minister Kevin Andrews first raised the issue that there were integration and assimilation issues. And we've seen over the past 5 or so years the rise in African youth street gangs, which have terrorized many suburbs in Melbourne, mainly in the sort of west, northwest, southeast. And to highlight this, for the media to report it, for the police to actually be truthful, it's been to talk about the facts of this. The racist label has been applied to media who've been accurate in their reporting, and law enforcement who've been accurate in their descriptions.
Yeah, Tim, let's be honest. I don't deny that there are some politicians who made inappropriate comments, generalizing the entire community to make political point out of it. But my approach to all this problem is, yes, there are a lot of youth problem in our community. That's the fact that we need to accept. And to just jump and use the race card without asking for a help that you need is going to affect us more than the people that made a comment. Simple example is if Kevin Andrews made a comment, what a community leader can do, responsible community leader who understands what is going on, is to approach them. Tell them, despite your comment, despite everything, yep, we agree that there are some integration challenges, but this is our solution. This is the kind of help we need from you. Can you, instead of attacking us in the media, join us and help us integrate? Because once they're here, Kevin Andrews has no way of taking you away. So the only thing you can do, if you approach them, is to sit down with you and help you sort out what are the integration problems instead of denying. I have my approach is different, because I know that we've got a problem. I don't care about who is commenting about on race card and everything. The people that are actually using the community for their own benefit are activists, and most activists they get funding from the Labour Party, and they get this funding from the Labour Party, and whatever money they get has no impact on the ground. The other people on the right-wing politicians which are commenting, they're commenting out of frustration. They see, like me, they see the problem, and the Labour Party is calling them racist, and there's no community leaders approaching them, telling them, yep, we have got a problem, can you come and help us sort it out? And the dangers of this one is this: when you try to use community as a political punching ball, the community suffered more. The Labour Party will keep winning in the name of using race. The right-wing political commentators will say whatever they're saying, but the community that need help will never be helped. My approach is simple. We have got a problem. The generation that came in here, my age mate, and those ahead of me, they've lost control. They've lost control. They did not understand this culture, and they were the first victim. Because they came from a refugee camp, they've never been exposed to the kind of world that they're in. And as a result of that lack of knowledge of this culture, they couldn't mentor their kid in a responsible way. And the kid had nobody. Most of them had nobody to help them. The parents don't understand where they're going. The parents don't understand the kid became more smarter. And the school system is teaching them victimhood. So some of them, out of not performing well in school, out of not getting meeting people that they can go with along, and the community leaders here that are not interested in them, but interested in the money they're getting in their name, the kid will live in the vacuum. And what happened, a simple example is, if we go out here now, we find maybe a group of 10 or 15 kids, and then the police come and round them up because of one of them, the other 15 of them will already enter into the police record. And the next time, they won't get a job. It needs a community organization that is willing to work with these people. Once they get multiple records and they have no hope, and they're being told that this country is racist, they have nowhere to go. They will have to keep committing the crime. And then also there are big criminals that uses them. Some of these kids that you see going to bash people in the houses to get keys and get cars and get the money, they're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it because somebody told them, if you go and get me a Mercedes-Benz, I'll give you $1,000. This kid, because he has no control, he's frustrated, he got nobody to help him, he's going to bunch into your house, get your car keys, drive away with your car to go and give it to me. And then I give him $1,000. So you cannot just generalize racism for a very systemic problem that need to be addressed. It affects my community more than the people that are using race cards.
You mentioned the Labor Party and the community grants, which we've seen through the IBAC Labor Party branch stacking investigation. How these basically community grants, they're part of a way for Labor to basically get members for branch stacking, and so they can also, these grants are also for trying to curry favor with community leaders to get their various communities to vote Labor at every state election. And Labor has been very good over the past 20 years at getting the migrant communities to vote for them. And also there's we're seeing it more and more, the vote a lot of these Labor politicians vote for us because the other side, the liberal national far right, are racist, and this is the toxicity of race politics. The fact, if like as you're speaking about before, like if we had none of this toxic racial identity politics, it would be quite easy to sit down and work through solutions to prevent African youth gang crime, make sure that there's both appropriate sentencing for those who are the most violent of offenders, but also rehabilitation for those who are basically sucked into it. But a lot of them, I think you alluded to, are sucked into these gangs because they're told that Australia is a racist country, and there's no way that you can ever make it legitimately in Australian society because it's so racist.
Not only that, team. Let's be honest. There's no problem. There's no problem one being a Labour Party. I have no problem people being a Labour Party supporter. In the last election, I supported Bill Children because he appealed to me. I'm a construction worker. I support a union. And there's no problem being a Labour supporter. But the problem is, I don't blame the Labour and I don't blame the right wing. I blame the community leaders. Mr. Daniel Andrew, let's be honest. If you get somebody that can actually deliver on the ground to the South Sudanese community, he will give you all the money you need. But the problem, the community leaders that are stuck with them, the community leaders that are stuck with the Labour Party, they don't care about the community. They get the money, but they don't care about the community. So my question to the Labour Party, there's no problem migrant community supporting Labour Party, but make sure you work with people that are actually making sure that the disadvantaged young people, this money get to them, or this money get to be used in a way that will support them to become a better person in the future. And let's be honest, it is hard. So it's very hard in this country if you have entered into a multiple police records to get a job. Plus the media having developed the narrative about these young people, most of them, to be honest, have forgotten that they can ever do a meaningful job in this country because they have nobody to reference them. They can't even get team, and they said, I know this young fellow, I've watched him in the last 5 years. The community leaders are only focusing on what they will get from the government. And most employment doesn't come from the government. Most employment comes from the private sector. One of the reasons I went to the union and joined the union, become a union member, I am the one who went to the union and attend the meeting of the union. Most union members don't don't attend the meeting. As long as they pay the membership card, they don't want to get involved in the union activities. The reason I did that, I thought it would be a window. It would be a window to help my own people. But after some of the union organizers saw me on a platform like Sky News, they try to tell me to be liberal, that I am against the union. All this zero-sum game in politics doesn't work. I may be supporting something in Liberal Party. I may be supporting something in Labour Party. I am not somebody who is stuck to one side. So the problem with our community is the community leaders are sucked into the Labour Party in terms of money, but the Labour Party doesn't even question them. What do you use this money for? Labour Party on the other side is not interested in betterment of these young people. Is interested in using them as a race voting card. The Liberal on the other side, they are not making an attempt to identify where Labour Party and the community leaders has failed and try to come in there. Look at Matthew Guy. Is he reaching out? The demography in Victoria has changed. You cannot win election here if you don't have a reconciliatory message with the other minority communities. We've got a large Indian communities in the West. You've got African communities. So if you don't, we need a balance of power. And that's why I said, apart from Labour Party and Liberal Party, we need the middle ground. The middle ground that speaks to us as Australians. So what I want to say is that the community leaders are the ones who are failing our own people, not the Labour, not the Liberal. The rest are using us for their own politics.
Well, it's fair to say that the Labor government over the past 18 months has failed all Victorians. Melbourne's been the most locked down city in the world, and we've had the worst outcomes in terms of COVID cases, deaths with COVID, and we're at this stage now where even though, as I said in my introduction, the state is technically open, there's still it's nothing like the pre-COVID times. And going back to the middle of 2020, when we had the Black Lives Matter protesters who were all about defund the police. We saw them basically cheer on during the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth lockdown. All of the police brutality that they saw against so-called COVIDiots, and we saw Victoria Police. They were happy to go after any community that revolted against the lockdown. I mean, we saw the Albanian Muslims in Dandenong. The Victoria Police brutally suppressed that rebellion, and also with the Lebanese in Broadmeadows as well. To my view, it really showed how all of this left progressive virtue signaling about Black Lives Matter, anti-racism, they cheered on this totalitarianism of the past 18 months and loved Dan Andrews hectoring and lecturing, threatening us every day. And it just basically exposed how hollow, and it was all for show, their supposed values of anti-racism, anti-police brutality.
Yeah, you just put it in a very precise way. But what I just want to say is, seeing this lockdown started, seeing this COVID-19 came, I am not denying there's no COVID, there's COVID. But the lies that has been employed by Daniel Andrews, the totalitarian tendency he shows in controlling people, like the curfew and everything, the way he used the police, for a rational person, you'll just know that there's more to this than COVID. And people are not stupid. Many people can see. They can see. Look, what was the point of making it? For example, if I'm walking in the park alone, there was nobody close next to me. Why should it be illegal for me not to have a mask on?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
That was one of the stupidest rules.
Completely, it doesn't make sense. So there was what is making many people not actually to believe in all this and to actually be hesitant was the lies the politicians used. Scott Morrison on the other side is lying on his own. He left us to the premiers who are hungry for power. And he said, vaccine is not mandated. And then he's keeping quiet when people lose their job. The nurses that we badly needed last year, we don't need them now. If there's really virus that much, and I said in one of my speeches the other day in Flemington, I said, when I was in Africa, in Uganda, I think that was about 2000, 2002, Ebola broke out in the northern part of Uganda. It was clear for everybody that there's Ebola. You don't even need to go there because people were dying in numbers. So there was no politics about it. You don't even need to go there on your own. You don't even need somebody to force you not to go there because people are dying. So I'm not denying that there's no COVID, but the politics that has been employed in Daniel Andrew used it all this, like lying from the not recall, hotel quarantine, everything that happened last year, we're forgetting about it now. And people want to say, I stand with Dan. Stand with Dan for what? I can stand with Dan, but hold him accountable for things that he has done. He destroyed small businesses. He used the police. The reputation for the police now with the community was almost low because of him. And some of us believe in the police. And I want the police. So coming to the Black Lives Matter, the Black people everywhere need to know that this movement of Black Lives Matter that focus more on being a victim, focus more on destroying other people's properties is not helpful for us. What we need to work with others. If you, Thomas Sowell said one time, he said in one of his books, he said, if you are a community that cannot produce and you cannot create your own jobs, then you are liable to be employed by others. Most of the Black community, they're not producers, they're not business people. Let's take a simple example of South Sudanese. A South Sudanese and Ethiopian here in Victoria, there are Ethiopian restaurants. Those Ethiopian restaurants, they will start employing their own Ethiopian. There is Chinese wherever they go, and I think Thomas Sowell made that point. He said Chinese wherever they go, they don't care whether they don't want to change to English. They create their own Chinatown, they create their own job. It is you who have to modify your English to meet their standard because they don't need anything from you. But if you are a community that is dependent on employment, you want to be employed by others, you want to be employed by the government, that means your chances of being independent are very minimal. You actually need to work with others. You need to work with other community. So this issue of Black Lives Matter that focus more on indoctrinating young people to become victims, not teaching them to become responsible, to me, I don't agree to it. It has got a Marxist undertone. If you want to help me, come directly to me. Don't look at my skin color. And I put a tweet before. I said, if you can conclude how I think and which political party I should be in because of my skin color, then you are the racist. Because you in your mind already, you know that people who look like Jerry, they should be belonging to this political party. They should be thinking like this. If you can have that, like Joe Biden said last time, you're not black enough if you vote Republican. What does that say? It said these people own you. You are in their plantation. And it's not going to help the next generation. So the whole Black Lives Movement thing is not in the interest. The slogan is very good. It's a feeling. Who doesn't want Black Lives to matter? Of course, everybody wants to. When you say Black Lives Matter and you go against it, then they are okay. You don't mean Black Lives doesn't matter? But they don't look at the organization. The organization, which is the Black Lives Matter organization, what are their agendas? They don't look at it.
Well, we've also seen with this, taking the knee for Black Lives Matter. You commented on Quinton de Kock. He didn't take the knee, not because he's a racist, because he didn't want to be told how he should show that he's not racist. And we saw the reaction that ABC personality Tony Armstrong, who thought, because he didn't take the knee, that he automatically must be a racist.
That's bullshit. most importantly, taking a knee in South Africa is not going to change everything.
Exactly.
You need economic restructuring. You need land reform. So if there's something you need in South Africa now, it's not about kneeling. There are tangible things that you need to do. And these politicians or these media houses don't talk about them. Up to now, South Africans have no right to own a land. They have no land because the land is all being. There are some systemic racial issues that need to be addressed that can make you provide your family with something to eat. Kneeling in the sport is actually a virtue signaling event to make you even feel worse as a black person. They're telling you you're living without you sleep without food, you have no job, you have no land, you have no house, and then they tell you stand up and I kneel in front of you. I call that false black power. It's false. I need to be able to work, pay my rent, have my land, take care of my family. If I can do that, I don't care whether you kneel in front of me or not. In South Africa specifically, that is the least thing you need. You don't need to kneel. And where did this kneeling come from? It came from the progressive, the left.
Well, wasn't it invented by Colin Kaepernick at an NFL game? That's where it all came from.
No, it started in America. I started in America, I think. Started with police in America. You know, when after the George Floyd one, and then people start protesting, instead of police attacking them, the police start kneeling in front of them. And when the police kneel, then everybody now start. But the police might have done that as a way of showing the crowd that was angry at what happened, to neutralize them. It shouldn't be a symbol that need to be. It was just to neutral. The police were, instead of de-escalating everything, because these people were pissed off, and if you attack them or maybe try to arrest them, it may escalate into something different. So the police kneel in front of them, and that neutralized the tension. I applaud at that time. What the police did there was good, but it shouldn't be something that is symbolizing the Marxist BLM organization. They took it as their own symbol. And I will not support it. I will never kneel in anything anyway. And if you kneel in front of me, you're actually the most racist person.
No one will ever force me to take the knee. I mean, I don't need to prove anything to a person who's demanding of that. I mean, and the thing is, how by basically having mandatory, taking the knee in sports now, how do you know all the people doing it are genuine?
Exactly. That's what I said. Instead of you mandatory kneeling, there are people who are doing way, way good things to the black people than kneeling. They don't want to be they're not talking about it. They're not showing up about it. But when it becomes a government issue to force people to kneel against your will, doesn't make sense. It goes against the freedom. Unless you are a racist person, you will be dealt with by law. But forcing people to kneel, South Africa has gone far. I did not support that. Another thing that people keep saying here, that most of my critics have been saying, that I am not supporting Aboriginal people. I'm carrying Australian flag. I got both Australian flag and Aboriginal people. Australian flag is a country flag that represents us all. And if it was bad, you guys would have changed it before I came. So elect your own government, go to Canberra, change that the country Australia is no longer being represented by this flag. When it is no longer representing us, I will not have it. Now, coming to the indigenous community, there is no best things I can do for them as somebody from South Sudan who has been welcome in their land, except to be responsible. To be a responsible person and better my life, become a better person, not become a criminal. There is nothing better than that I can do to them, to thank them for being in their land. But if you are defending criminals and thinking that the criminals are victims, point them out first of all on their own mistakes, and then their victim issue will be addressed separately. The South Sudanese community this Aboriginal community a responsibility because it gave them where to stay when their country was not good for them enough. What best can you do to somebody who has welcomed you except to become responsible? It doesn't matter whether there are 2 or 3 gangs, it doesn't matter. Whoever call you gang, doesn't matter. As long as there is an element of disorderliness within the community, you owe it to the people that welcome you to be better.
One of our commenters, Sophie, has said, and yet Timmy was coerced into vaccinating. So yes, I've been open with my audience that I've had 2 doses of AstraZeneca, and you made the decision in the end. Well, so you could continue to work to take the Pfizer vaccine. What was that choice like to make for you? I'm not sure what your previous views were on the vaccines when they were being rolled out.
You know, like I told you in the beginning, Tim, is that what made so many people hesitant about this vaccine, it was the lies the politician have used, and censorship. There was no critical. People were not being allowed to look at what happened to Alan Jones.
Hey, he's been cancelled today. Oh, his last
Exactly.
show.
I saw it on his Facebook before. So people were not allowed to. When you are not allowed to talk freely about something, you are actually trying to make people be scared. But the New World Order, as Brett Azad, the Minister of Health in New South Wales, put it, these politicians and their businesses are controlling us. And they have tried to. So out of coercion, like you just said, I've been forced to take it because there are some things that I cannot do without it. The first one, I took the first one almost 4 weeks ago, and I took the second one yesterday. But it wasn't something I wanted, but it was out of coercion. I've been forced. I have no choice. There are some things that I cannot do without having it. What it made me to become more vocal now, to make sure that people who make these decisions in Parliament, they will have people that we mandated next time. And I may not contest personally in election, but I will make sure that the people that I know represent our views will be the one to go to that Parliament. I will be supported. I will campaign across Victoria, and I've told many people, out of what Tim Quilty did, out of what David Limbrick did, you can join Liberal Democrat now because they have been standing with us for a while. You can be an independent. I've talked to some of the union organizers. I told them, guys, the Labour Party that used to be for the workers is not for the workers anymore. You're going to have to get your own independent candidates. The current Labour Party is fighting culture war, is fighting victim minority group, sex. They're not focusing on workers anymore. So the political dynamic will change. If you have been coerced against your will, it is your chance now to confront the people that forces you, take them out of power. If you have lost your job because of that, you organize politically and make sure that we take them out in the next election.
It's probably been one of the most egregious things of the whole pandemic, on top of the lockdowns, the vaccine mandates, because, well, as you described, your informed consent was taken away from you, and we still have Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister, laughably saying we don't have a mandatory vaccination program in Australia. And we saw with throughout the year that the people, there were thousands of people who were voluntarily getting the vaccine. There probably would have been Australia would have reached the 80% thresholds if it was completely voluntary. But we've seen the mission creep throughout the years with the mandates, and what is it now in New South Wales, the new 95% target for the unvaccinated to get their rights back. People aren't able to make a decision. Do I believe that the vaccine is going to be overall beneficial for me to take than what will happen if I get COVID? And I'm not sure if you've been following LNP Senator Jared Rennick talking about the injuries some have suffered because they've been coerced into to getting the jab.
Yeah, the problem is that the government don't even want, the politicians don't want to talk They don't want to talk about the injuries. No one want to take responsibility for what happened after you get the vaccine. This is what scared many people. And if it was that effective, they would have taken responsibility for the adverse effect that come from it. Number two, why are they censoring it? They're censoring. If you talk today about the effect you get from your vaccination, Facebook will stop you, YouTube will take you away, all the platform that doesn't want to talk about that. So it was the politician, I don't know what's going on, team, but the globalists seem to have come together and board our politicians. Our politicians were very cheap. They've been used. Everything about this COVID things has just been, it's been clear that they've been coerced themselves, the politicians, to do whatever they want. Or maybe they've been bought, who knows? So it is difficult to make your mind around it, what is going on. Because it doesn't make sense. If I talk about myself having got the vaccine and talk to you about how it affects me, somebody want to shut me down. If people go for a protest demanding their freedom, the mainstream media doesn't want to show it. And if you talk about it, you are cancelled. So there was a lot of it. It's all clear that the dictatorial powers that control this world have got a free ride. And in Australia in particular, you got a lot of your country, before I came in here, my country now, has been shielded from the other part of the world. Most of you guys are very ignorant. They're very ignorant about politics. Some of the people I work with, they say, I don't care about politics. Until they were locked down. That's when they know now politics was important. So now they're waking up. So when you get a lot of, you get a population that is not politically informed, they can be used by dictators. And that's what Daniel Andrews is having. He's having a free ride because he knows they have the majority. I hope it doesn't happen the same next year.
Well, Australians have always been, since I can remember, I'm turning 32 this month. Australians have always been very passive. If the government decides something, they might grumble about it, but they'll accept it, and that's why. Even before we had this health fascism police state, there was this growing nanny state. I know it's inconsequential to lockdowns and mandates, but the fact that taxes on cigarettes and alcohol constantly went up with under the banner of it's for your health, even though these hit the lower class the most, but it was a slippery slope. As soon as you accept sort of more public health measures that interfere with your daily lives, then this was the culmination of this. And this is why the reason why Dan Andrews was able to get away with the lockdowns for so long is because he was looking at the polls. The overwhelming majority of Victorians, despite how he was behaving, Victoria Police were behaving, still thought that, well, it's for our health. Lockdown sucks. Being stuck at home away, it sucks. But it's for our health. Australians have been complicit in this tyranny. It doesn't. Australia is still a democracy, and there was that famous line by Dan Andrews, this can't be over because we want it to be. It is over now because enough people were sick of the lockdowns that Dan, what is it? He locked us down for like 5 cases. Now he opened the place up with 2,000 cases. That's because Victorians had decided that they'd had enough. So this can all be over if enough people want it to be, all of these mandates and passports.
Yeah, you put it correctly. And that's what happened. He was looking at the poll, and then so many people were panicking. They did not know what kind of virus was it, and then how deadly it is. And the numbers were being announced all the time. And Victoria was having the highest death rate. So it scared people. People were scared, and as out of that fear, people were actually showing some support to them. But when he locked down with 5 cases, and he said his aim was to have a zero COVID. And finally, he opened out and he believed, he even announced himself that we can never get zero COVID. That's when polls were coming down. If he had continued that time, people were going to turn around against him. And then also the police were now speaking out. They were not happy with the way they're being used. So everything was now going to go down. And do you know what he's escaping to? He thinks it's because of the vaccine. And now we are vaccinated. We have done the best. Thank you, Victoria. No, the vaccine doesn't stop you from spreading the virus. I saw the acting chief health officer the other day being asked, out of the 25 people that died, how many people were fully vaccinated? He said, we have the data, but we cannot talk about it. Because they knew you will still die from COVID even if you are fully vaccinated.
Well, you'll die with COVID. It's always important to make that distinction. And also because if you read the daily press releases, most of the people who are dying with COVID are elderly people, which obviously that's sad that they've died, but humans die, especially at old age. The vaccines don't make you immortal.
Yeah, but even before COVID came, have Daniel Andrew and his chief health officer ever come to us and tell us how many Victorian dies every day?
No.
They should tell us how many people died in 2019.
I mean, with the Cup long weekend, with the state's roads reopening, there's already been lots of road carnage, but we're not going to have a road lockdown, ban all the cars off the road until we get, zero road fatalities.
Exactly not. So it's all, and believe me, I envy people in Africa. I see a lot of parties going on in Africa, people gathering together in huge numbers, having weddings, but the death rate is not any bigger. Because it's not linked, the COVID lockdown is not linked because the government are not providing some employment, they're not providing services. So they couldn't control people because they were giving them nothing. Here in Australia in particular, the government uses the services that they have, the fact that they can control you, they can make sure that they shut down your job. Everything that is linked to your livelihood was shut down. And that's what gave them more powers. But in the countries where the government don't have those services, they don't control them, people are going about their own choices. I know people I know died from COVID or died with COVID in South Sudan. But they couldn't lock anybody down because they were not giving them anything.
And that's another reason why the Australian people were so compliant, because the government was paying them to stay at home, and so they could just have their they'd get their fortnightly allowance. They'd watch Netflix or whatever during the day, and they were obviously it wasn't a great quality of life, but they were placated.
I got a friend of mine who told me, he said, if you can get $750 a week out of COVID disaster money, then he doesn't want to go and work. He said, I make a little bit $100 on top of that if I go to work. But now I'll be getting $750 and I'm staying at home. So what will be their incentive to go to work? They will not go to work. But now that they have stopped, they have accepted to be vaccinated and they're not going to work. So when the government subsidized being lazy subsidized, you'll get people that will never work. And they will never think critical about where they will get their next meal. So, but if the government take the welfare out of these physically able people, believe me, they will find how to work. And I always tell people, welfare should have been made a bit harder for physically able people not to get. If you have your 2 legs, your arm, and everything, you can work, we make it hard for you to get the welfare.
Well, that's the way it ideally should be. But again, welfare politics has made this issue so toxic that meaningful reform can probably be never achieved. Now, you're a big supporter of RDA, and Monica Schmidt released a video today, Australia SOS, which called upon, well, basically other countries to help highlight the human rights abuses that have happened in Australia over the past 18 months. Me personally, I thought that the video was a bit over the top because, in my view, Australia is still fixable. Australia can be saved. It's worth fighting for. I mean, yes, we've got lots of problems, but the over in the other Western countries, I mean, they've got their ridiculous vaccine passports, mandates, and masks, and the US states of California and New York, they're way worse than over here. I mean, the fact that over in the US they mask toddlers, that's sadistic to me. Certainly, I know that, what is it? The grass is always greener on the other side. I mean, we see the people in Europe and North America living sort of relatively normally, but there's still heaps of problems. And to my view, there's definitely still a lot to save and, well, make Australia great again as it once was.
I watched the video, and I have a greater respect for Monica, because Monica, she's a leader. She's a leader more than some of us. She's very convicted in her mind, and she look at what she did. I think there are less people who have done that in this country. She was forced to destroy all her platforms as a way of being bail. I think if that is correct.
That's what they tried to. That's what Victoria Police wanted.
Yeah, but she decided to stay in jail. I would tell you there are very few people who can do that in this country. I wouldn't count myself to be one of them. If confronted in that environment at that short notice, and then she made her mind and she stood her ground against Daniel Andrews, that is something great to be recognized about Monica. And the way she pulled all this together, she pulled the freedom protest together in the beginning. Coming to the video, I agree with you. Australia is still a great country. One man like Daniel Andrews, like Scott Morrison, or some other premiers like McGowan in Western Australia, they cannot be allowed to be, like, we cannot take them as the people that will represent Australia going forward. Some of them may lose election in the next election. Some of them may change their mind. Some of them may have a fight with their own parties. So there's still a room. There's still a room to save Australia. And personally, I always tell people that I don't belong to one political party, because the issues that I support, they are divided. They are all spread across the parties. I support the fact that the workers have to organize, because politicians can easily be voted. It doesn't matter which you can be Labour Party or Liberal Party or UAP or any other party. Once they are in power, they can easily be bought by these big multinationals. So I support the workers to organize themselves and have a voice, so that when politician goes against their right, they can actually stand and say, no, we don't agree with all of you. So on the other side, I believe the workers can fight, can be woken up. Most of them were ignorant. We need to wake them up now. And a simple example was what happened in the union. I can tell you, team, I've worked on so many union job sites. When this guy, Brett Sutton, all of a sudden came out and he said, the crib rooms are not going to be used. Believe me, I can say the crib room on the union job site are more cleaner than some of these members of parliament houses. Because we've got a peggy that is there to clean all the time. They're even more cleaner than our own houses. To just wake up and dream of power, and then they say you've shut down the crib room without giving the boys, and those workers should have been told that from 2 or 3 days from now, the crib room will not be working, so that you don't come with your meal that need to be warm. That was over the top. That is another example that those groups that are now known what politicians can do. Politicians can actually be used by their own business and everything to go against us. that group can actually be told, now we need to fight for Australia. Australia need to be rescued. On the other side, I see RDA has now joined UAP. But everything going on now is about COVID. But what if COVID is gone? There's no more COVID politics.
I wish. That's what we
No,
all hope.
it will definitely go. It will definitely go. They're keeping everybody engaged now in COVID. COVID will be there, but they will not be talking about it anymore. Now,
yeah, that's what I want.
I want to know. I want to know what other issues important to me, like family, like education, like freedom. What does all these particular parties say about them? If I join a party, am I going to be caged in and not speak freely? What is the UAP's position on freedom, on family, on education, on migration? I don't support bringing in more migrants personally, because you've got a lot of people homeless. So I only support skilled visas for those who would want to come and work and then they leave, but not those who will be on a welfare. So there are a range of things that we need to be engaged in it, and don't look only at focus only on COVID, because the politicians will start they will stop talking about COVID, because they all agree, Liberal and Labour, they all agree to force us to get the vaccine. Now that we are all been vaccinated, they're not going to talk about it. They're going to jump into climate change, going to jump into tax cut and all this. So I want to know what Monica, I will sit with them one soon, because I want to know where UAP stand on some of this. And if I go out there and support the UAP and maybe tell people to vote for UAP, I would have to know where they stand on some of the important thing to me, not COVID. So I agree with you. Australia still can be saved. It's the best place at the moment. There's no better place than Australia.
Well, I'm sure if you ask the UAP what their policies are on those topics that you listed, they do their best to answer. But well, we've got, what is it, the federal election first half of next year, and then there's the state election in November 2022. There'll be a wide variety of parties to choose from, which as I keep reminding people, we are still a democracy. If you don't want a government that is going to put all these coercive anti-freedom things, there's going to be a whole lot of other parties on the ballot paper. It's been great to interview you tonight, Jerry. And yeah, we'll definitely be hearing more from you in the future. You're very active on your Facebook page and your Twitter account, and I'll show people your African Australian Youth Foundation website here. So I'll include all the links to your social media on the show notes page, and also to your speech from Saturday, and also your previous interview with Dean McRae on Resolute TV.
Thank you very much. And for your viewers, we can do nothing without you. We need people like you to support us, to give us ideas. We may just have the courage to come and face the camera, but we don't know everything. We need to hear from you. We need to know what is happening in your local community. The more we know about it, the more we can speak about it. Thank you very much, team, and I hope to have you again soon.
Take care. All right, everybody, that's the show for this evening. I'll be back tomorrow with Trad Tasman Talk, 6 p.m. Melbourne time on the Unshackled YouTube channel. It'll be with Dewey DeBoer this week, who is in the never-ending Auckland lockdown. It seems to be the Auckland North Island lockdown seems to be the last Western lockdown that's kept going. I mean, Jacinta Ardern, she seems to be, following the CCP and trying to achieve COVID suppression for as long as possible, which also means suppressing human rights as well. So I'll check in with how he is tomorrow night. And also keep checking out the unshackled.net. It's got our Unshackled Productions archive and regular articles as well. And then, of course, Tim's News Explosion, 8:30 p.m. Monday evening on the WilmsFront channels as well. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow night.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com or Rational Rise TV to view the archive of episodes. And keep visiting the unshackled.net to view all our shows. And to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.